Good morning. Happy Friday. It's sunny. We're loving it. Apparently it's summer. We're going to make the most of this, aren't we? It could just be the weekend. That's fine. Thank you very much for joining us on this sunny Friday morning. We're doing a very special TechSwindon and Swindon Founders in conjunction with Thames Valley Chamber, and it's all about Swindon's best kept secrets. I mean, the purpose of TechSwindon was always to shine a light on the tech community in our region. I remember when I started 2 years ago, and now we kind of set up, and I was asked if I wanted to lead the Tech Swindon community. It's like, is there actually a tech community in Swindon? Is there anybody going on there? And as soon as you start reaching out, there's all these people doing amazing things, but they're just cracking on with it. So of course, our role as Tech Swindon is to glue these guys together, create a community, create a voice, start making connections and making a difference, which is obviously what communities always do, but also to really shine the light on individuals doing special things and really celebrating Swindon. One of the things we're going to talk about today is it gets a bit of a bad rap. It's not all magic roundabouts and terrible town planning. It's beautiful countryside that's well connected. Stop laughing, Scott. It's a wonderful environment, and it's a great place to start a business. And you're going to hear from our three founders today. They've all done it for very different reasons, different businesses at different stages of their journeys. But we want to celebrate this, start some different conversations, and hopefully inspire. But I mean, Tim, this was your idea, this event, wasn't it? This is something that you're really passionate about.
Well, indeed. I mean, Thames Valley Chamber of Commerce and Swindon Chamber of Commerce are all one little happy posse. And I suppose, I've been living and working in Swindon since, not for Scott's ears because he's far too young, but since the 80s, clearly. And, and always, I think, just echo what you said, Lucy, it's about, I spend all my time not only looking after the members, which are all different types of businesses across Swindon and our region, which goes all the way down to Slough and things like that. But it's always about telling everybody it's very much about the place itself. Because if you just look at, we're going to hear from Sam, Scott, and Duncan, and just to hear from three people who run, set up, and operate these businesses in our town is we're going to see very contrasting businesses, but actually all one thing in common: Swindon-based, tech, forward-thinking, entrepreneurial. What's not to love, to be honest with you? And I think I spend particularly all my time trying to encourage other businesses to come and work in Swindon and to set up and operate as much as I can with my little bit of influence.
We do what we can, don't we?
Yeah.
Enough from us. I'd like to introduce you to the founder. So, Sam, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us. Can you tell everybody who you are and what you do?
Sure, yeah, thank you. Yeah, so my name's Sam Dharmasiri. I have founded a company called Seer 365. We founded that in October last year. In the midst of the pandemic, so it was a very interesting time to launch a new business. But prior to that, my background's been in the business application space. So set up a few businesses around the business terminology would be ERP and CRM systems. And the last business which we started from the ground up, we sold in 2018 for just under £37 million. So it's quite a nice a deal, and we grew that business to about 500 people with operations in the UK, US, Middle East, as well as Swindon. And we've had business units in Swindon since 2002 when I first started business, and we've always found it a great place to build up talent and to retain talent and to grow. And it's been an interesting journey. So very keen to interact with the team here.
Thank you, Sam. Duncan, thank you for joining us today.
Okay, Duncan Game. I'm MD at Industrial Electronic Wiring in Swindon. We're a small to medium-sized business. I basically have been with the business about 21 years, but similar to Sam, I bought the business as an MBO about February last year, which was quite interesting timing again. So 5 weeks before Boris stands up, but we're basically a subcontract electronics assembler. So we build cable assemblies, printed circuit boards, and box builds, so power boxes, PLC boxes, customer specification. We've got around 50 people, and been based in Swindon for 41 years as a business. So it's been been a long time. The founder started the business 41 years ago. He then retired last year. And we've been going through a lot of change in the last 12 months with sort of change of culture, the way we sort of present ourselves and the way we're focusing on service and delighting the customer, basically, bringing in a lot of initiatives and investing in the business with sort of new ATE test equipment, new software, new logo gear, branded gear for everybody, so it gives us more of a team spirit. So yeah, we're doing a lot of investment, and it's getting very much a lot of positive out of it, from not only from our employees, which are the key people, but also our customers who are basically liking what we're doing and giving us more orders. So it's really working very well at the moment.
We are going to come back to the joys of going through business evolution or starting a business in lockdown. We're going to come back to that, because I know you and Sam have both got some very interesting stories on kind of the challenges, but also the opportunities and benefits. So these sessions are generally, we try to be eternal optimists in TechSwindon, but I know you guys have had an interesting kind of period. But Scott, let's before we delve into the joys of the last 15 months. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks for having me. It's great to be able to speak to people who are so enthusiastic about Swindon as I am. So, I run Fluff Digital. We are a software company based in Swindon. We're a similar starting journey, actually. We started start of last year, so we're about a year and a half in now. And yeah, we help companies get from ideas around technology and software through to implementation and scaling that up. And we use a variety of kind of design and the development techniques to do that. So we're at a very early journey in our kind of overall lifetime, and we just this week taken our first full-time employee, which is a very exciting time for us. We've gone from working with some freelancers, which has been fantastic, to a team now, and hoping to scale that up pretty quickly too. And that's where we're at.
The joy of managing people. The joys you have to come. Sam and Duncan can just kind of nod and smile. They know. It's really exciting, though, Scott. I mean, as you say, it's the next step of your evolution. Sam, that's what I wanted to kind of pick up with you, is how have you found starting a brand new business in lockdown? Because, you have a very skilled workforce. Where did you start? I mean, tell me about the kind of the journey from selling your last business to thinking, right, I've got a great new idea, and then what do I do next?
Sure, yeah. So having sold the business, we sold it to a very large organisation. So whilst we were reasonable mid-size business, we sold to a company that was over 170,000 employees globally. And having run the business for the past 10 odd years, it's a very different ethos when you don't have any real control. But we did the transition. So we did a 2-year, handover, and to make sure everything was all transitioned. And then, as an entrepreneur, you kind of feel that you want to get on to your next thing and try something else. So we had some ideas, and we mobilised, and it was the usual stuff. You got a great idea, but how do you fund it? How do you get a business plan? How do you get all that stuff moving? It was interesting doing that in a pandemic. It allowed us actually a little bit more time to think about things. We didn't have to. In the past, when I've done this, I've flown around the world trying to secure various funding from people, and we're able to do that without traveling. And we got investment from people like Microsoft out in Seattle, and we did that without going out to Seattle, which I've done in the past, and that's a killer in terms of time. So I think there's a lot of benefit in cost and time saving, to be honest, and it also allowed us to get in front of different people that perhaps we wouldn't have engaged with before. So I guess the hardest part actually was getting a bank account. That was probably because the banks were busy giving out the COVID loans to people, and to actually go through the security and meet the bank manager was probably the hardest bit. But yeah, the rest of it was surprisingly straightforward, and I think we saved a lot of money in travel expense because we're able to do stuff remotely, which was really good.
And so what were you able to learn? Because obviously you sold your one business and you're now setting up this next business in Swindon. What do you think your key learnings were that's helped you through to relaunch and restart? Because I guess if you look at where Scott is, for instance, on the journey for his, he's sort of got his first employee, etc., and Duncan's reinventing his business. So, but you've been there and seen it and done it and started again. And that's very entrepreneurial. What would you say your key findings have been?
Well, certainly one of the things I wanted to do with the benefits of starting from the ground up was that we can redefine everything. So, I've got a clear set of parameters we want to work to. I mean, I don't want to hire lots of employees. I want to automate things as much as possible. I want to be efficient. Try and do things from the ground up in a new way. So for this business, I don't want it to be more than 50 people. We want to automate things. That's what we're selling, automation of software. We want to look at everything. So right from the ground up, I don't want to employ accountants. We're using a good local accounting firm to support us, but we've been very careful about the software we use to run the business. So try and remove the need for paper. I think we've looked at offices. Do we go fully virtual or have offices? But we think there's benefit having offices. So we have office locations to help people get together. But yeah, absolutely looking at it from the ground up and not going back on what we always used to have. And I think that's a benefit of a startup that Scott has the luxury of. I think for Duncan it might be harder because you've got an established business already, but I think that's a benefit of the startup. You can do things differently.
Doing things differently, that's the key, isn't it, really? I think from your previous
learning, absolutely take the learnings and see how you could optimize every single part of the journey for customers, your employees and suppliers as well, and really be tight-knit in that.
And do you think your plan or goals are much tighter than they were when you started out on your previous journey?
Yeah, absolutely, and that's probably because we evolve as people as well. I've certainly learned a lot in the past 20 years, and actually going through a disposal or a sale, that was a 3-year exercise for us, and I certainly at the end of that process, if I knew what I knew then, I would have structured that business differently. So from the get-go, we've got an exit in mind, and that's how we're thinking. And that helps as well to know what the objective is, and make sure every decision we make is for that year decision in 5 years' time.
It always sounds really brutal, but when I speak to startups, that's always the thing, is grow the business with your exit strategy in mind, which when you're in love with your idea at the beginning, you've got this fan, you're so excited, you're not thinking about what that looks like. But as you say, Sam, you'll build a business very differently depending on what that end goal or exit strategy would be. But yeah.
And I would also say, the end goal shouldn't be about making tons of money, because I think that's the wrong way to look at it. It should be about, let's create the best business, the best product, have the best customer journey, and that ties into how you want to be at the end of that process.
But I like the structure, as you say, with it. That's kind of the size of business you want it to be, in the culture of the business you want it to be, in the focus, and delivering the what you're delivering in house versus what you outsource. I think all of that structure, as you say, has come from learnings. About what can take up time and distract you from potentially what you really want to be doing. I was going to lead that on to Duncan, because you have a very physical office, a physical business. I think it's a really exciting time for you, because you've been there for a long time. It's now yours, so congratulations. I think that's a really important thing to say.
Yeah.
But you've got all this energy and excitement of evolution, and as you say, lockdown then came. So how have the last 15 months been for you?
Well, that's a big question. So yeah,
you're still smiling. That's a good sign.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting, because coming into the MBA, I've got a lot of experience in the business and in the industry, and I've got a large network. I did the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses program, and that was really helpful to sort of like a mini MBA to sort of understand the workings fully of a business, and talking always about exit strategy, whether it be in 5 years or 15 years. It's just thinking about it and just in the background. But it's also about then meeting. I think having a good network of people is really important, because you learn from their experiences and what they're doing, and you can ask open and frank questions to people who you trust. And I think that is a huge possible thing for Scott to think about, is just increase your network and getting yourself out there and finding like-minded people. And then so coming into the MBO, it had been a long time in the coming, and we finally got there, which was great. And then you start getting into the reality of lockdown occurring, and we've got to put everything in on this from a personal point of view. So it was quite a scary moment, actually, probably for 3 months or so. But we're quite fortunate in that we are in tech companies. We work a lot with companies who are into medical sciences, semiconductor. So a number of them said to us, "Look, you need to keep us going. So we need product from you." So that was really reassuring to have that sort of letter to come through to us in case people got stopped on the way into work. So I do remember at Easter last year, coming from Bath to Swindon at my commute, there being I'd see about 5 cars on the M5. It was just I'll never forget that. It was just really strange. It was like yeah, just weird. So I think once for me, once we'd done from June last year, we started doing our change process really, and putting a leadership team in place, and starting to work on culture, engaging with the employees, asking what we're doing well, what we're not doing so well, where we could improve. And then we started putting those changes in place that we sort of discussed with employees. So that was really positive. I think we all came together. I think COVID did actually, we had to make a lot of changes at one-way systems and in our manufacturing environment. So we all had to make changes, and we didn't have to furlough anyone in the end, which is really really positive. So I think that journey then I got probably to about December, and you think, wow, we almost made it through our first year. And that was the moment I thought, yeah, I'm a little bit calmer now about how things are unfolding, and we've made change. Our customers are liking what we're doing. We're focusing on communication with employees and customers massively. So and then if we give a delivery date, that's when we deliver. So that reliability is there. Our quality is very good. And our flexibility is good. So we are sort of raising the bar from perhaps where we were, which is we've done I think everyone's done a good job at IEW. So we're really pleased with how it's gone and how it's going. And I think we're still going through a change process. So we're putting a new air conditioning system in. We're looking at going carbon neutral in the next 12 months, which is quite a big step. We just put LED lighting in as well. So we've got an EV and an EV charge point put in. So I think we're trying to develop and be positive about the business. So we are very busy. So it seems to be working. So it has been to answer your question, it's been a very it hasn't been too difficult physically, but mentally it's been very tiring in terms of having all these things, making these things happen. But I think, in fairness, I think the team around, I think one of the really important things is everybody at IEW is engaged with the change, and particularly the sort of, all key people are engaged with it, and we seem to be making a difference. So I couldn't do that on my own. I can't do it on my own. So I'm there. My role has changed massively in terms of leadership, from sort of being the MD who sort of perhaps takes more on himself, and then through to now, which is more people in the right places are doing the right things, and it's automatically happening, and that's where I wanted to be. And that's fair credit to everyone at IEW. It's really they've all worked hard to get there, and we've come through a very difficult year. And touch wood, we've been reasonably unaffected by it, although that's probably the wrong thing to say. It has affected us, but we've seemed to got through it okay, which is really pleasing to see. And it's been a tough year for a lot of people, so it's been a tough time. So it's very 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 pleased to be in this position right now. So yeah.
Duncan, I think one thing you've done, and I think bearing in mind it's a well-established business, but you've really reinvented, haven't you, the customer and the experience in all this. And I think that's almost taking a well-established business back to its grassroots. Did the teams come with you pretty well with that?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to the sort of leadership of the business, and how what direction do you want to go in? And employees were waiting to know what I was, what my thoughts were really. But that it's been coming for a while. The change and I think it's just a fresh direction, just freshening up of the business. And as I said before, I wasn't exactly sure what we were going to do, but I think Sam mentioned it before, the experience you have when you're on the spot in the hot seat, it comes into play, and everything that you've experienced and comments people have made, and you've seen your network, people you're close to have done and experienced, that kind of, you soak it in, I think, subconsciously, and it then when you get to that point where you've got to make decisions, that's when it starts. You've got to look at both sides of every decision really, and make that decision based on the experience you've had and what facts are in front of you, as opposed to knee jerking. So I think that's a big thing I've learned. I think I felt ready now at this. I'm just under 50. I felt like everything was coming in. The experience is coming together, and it's been. I'm making reasonably good decisions, good gut feel, but that's because of the experience I've had and the network I've got, and the people within IEW are also, making decisions, and we discuss things, and we've very much said right from the start that it's an open. There's no, let's discuss it and be very frank with each other, but in a positive way, and it's just keeping that positive attitude. So there's no one's afraid to sort of put any idea out there, because it might lead to something else. It might springboard onto something else. So I think that's a key part of it, is open communication, and people having good people around you that you trust, and then you become you become a greater. You have more experience around you, and your sum is better than just the individuals. So you work better as a team. So yeah, that's been a really big part for us: communication and open, frank discussion.
But that's all about culture, which is what Sam was mentioning as well. I mean, I think there's been no playbook for this, has it? Leaders have been really challenged, and a lot of people have really struggled. So what you've created there is actually the team feels like they've all come together and been a part of it with you. They've all stepped up during lockdown, during the management buyout, and it's because it's your business. You probably don't realize quite how special that is. It sounds like everybody's really excited about the future and are collaborating, and that culture you created sounds quite special. Have you hired during lockdown? Have you grown?
Yeah, we've had a few retirements actually, and we haven't really hired much over the last annual year, just because we just wanted to keep it consistent, and we didn't want to bring anyone else new in. Having said that, we've hired a few people this year. We've got probably about 4 people, hired about 4 people. So yeah, we have. We do have a small night shift as well, where we're just a 2-hour night shift, which works really well for us actually, and we're taking on people on that as well at the moment. So that's been quite good. But so we've kept it deliberately very tight last year, and this year we're sort of looking at, and also partly because we didn't know how it was going to unfold. We didn't know what was going to happen, if it was going to be quiet or busy. So, but I think. As the year's gone, I mean, probably from the start of this year, I think customers have seen how we've changed. They've held off a bit, and they've realised we are making a difference. There is a change, and they're now putting orders through more. So we are getting more busy as this year goes on, which is good. Although there are a few shortage issues going on with worldwide semiconductor components, but that's an issue that I think everyone's seeing.
I was saying one of the challenges we all face is how you get that culture of your business and your mission out when you're looking for talent, because there is a talent shortage across the board. And I mean, Scott, I'm going to come to you on this question, because you're busy trying to grow your team, you're busy trying to run projects. Whenever I speak to you, you've always got too much to do. One of your challenges has been finding those resources, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has, and I think part of that has certainly been because of the environment we've been in for the past year. I mean, we're a very different organisation than I'd certainly set out to be at this point, but I'm starting to learn that actually you need to roll with things as they come, as much as having those grand plans. So I think, as has been said, culture is kind of where we started out with the company, and certainly even the freelancers we've been working with and the resources we've needed to get projects across the line, that's been a big part of making that happen. And obviously, as we start to grow the team, that's equally as important. And I really fundamentally believe that if we create a great place that people want to come to work every day, with people that are passionate about what they do, we'll create great work for people. But yeah, certainly finding people has been pretty difficult. And I think the nature of the work that's been happening has been that companies have needed to get projects pretty immediately underway. We've seen a massive acceleration in digital transformation projects that have been on the back burner for a while now, and suddenly, especially companies that aren't tech focused have needed to get those up and running. So projects need to happen pretty quickly, and with the kind of work work shortages as well in terms of having people readily available. That's been difficult. Yeah, I mean, again, as has been mentioned as well, the network has been great in managing us help that throughout, really, and certainly pulling on the strong local network we've got in Swindon even has been a great start. But there definitely is a shortage of good immediate talent here, and that has been a bit of a problem for us.
But Scott, you've looked in differently, haven't you? When you've got your new employee, you've scoped it differently.
Yeah, so again, we kind of always intended really to start out with a bigger permanent team, and just with the pandemic, it felt like actually having access to more flexible resources probably the way to go for that first year. Certainly, the projects we were being tasked with required, different resources at different times, and I think it was definitely a good decision to keep that slower than we planned. But obviously, now building a company and building the team around the growth that we're expecting is pretty important. And yeah, I mean, it's equally on both sides of the coin. So finding great freelancers to work with has been difficult throughout the country, really. And we've not been bound by location at all, obviously, but that's been a slight problem to date. And yeah, finding great local people as well to bring into the team, again, is not easy around here, but something we're really keen to try and help fix.
Perfect.
How did you approach your recruitment, Sam, when you were building your new team? Because how many are in your team now? Is it?
So yeah, we've got 18 in the UK, and I've got 10 in an offshore team in Sri Lanka at the moment. So that's the. We were fortunate, that most of the 18 are people I've worked with for the past 20 years. So part of my existing or previous management team, and so we were fortunate in that sense. We had a good pool of people that I had access to, and so that was quite easy. And quite a lot of them were, over half the team were based in Swindon already, so it's nice to have an office that we all go into, especially as we're designing and building products. So that's quite useful to do that in a room and share ideas. It's quite hard to do that on remote stuff, so the productivity was much higher when we were in together. So yeah, that was fortunate. But and as we go forward, some of the challenges will be similar to Scott. How do you find that level of talent? We've always struggled in the previous job. I think we all had something like 100 vacancies at any point in time. So it's going back to the usual stuff of, if you can't find them, you've got to build them up and train. So be that graduate or even cross training. People that work in industry, they've got some great business knowledge, and how do you give them the tech knowledge to be an asset to what we're doing? So that's worked for us in the past. We'll probably do that again. I certainly like to explore things like the apprenticeship schemes going forward. So that would be a valuable thing to get people, that younger age profile, and get them to some of the roles we're having. One of the things we're doing is to kind of de-skill some of the consulting positions we had in the past. So getting bright young individuals and giving them some of those skills would be quite useful. Try and reduce the need for going offshore on certain activities.
I mean, the talent challenge is national, isn't it? But is there a question here about what do we do to attract people to Swindon? Do you think that there is that a problem that we're making up? Is it just that we've all got the same problem?
I think I would say certainly in the past it was hard for graduates. We never filled our graduate program. In fact, we had two main offices. One was in Swindon, one was in Chesterfield, which arguably has the similar sort of challenge to Swindon. So you'd always lose out on people wanting to be based in a big city such as London. So I think that was always a challenge. But I think now there's certainly a feeling that perhaps people don't need to travel as much, and work-life balance becomes more important, and living somewhere like Swindon with access to the countryside, and you get into London relatively easily still. So I think that there are benefits that the Swindon provides, and I think is extolling those benefits and actually focusing on, what's the nature of the job. Trying to, even for graduates, you have a work-life balance. You don't have to be in the office every day, and there's benefits in that. So I think there's ways around it. Sure.
The Chamber recently did an economic survey where we spoke to businesses not only in Swindon but our own region and across the country, and it was actually quite. I mean, I did a lot of one-to-one interviews during that process. Approximately 45% of all those businesses that we spoke to who were recruiting basically said it is a challenge. And I think because a lot of them were trying to backfill for people perhaps who'd actually left the country during the last 18 months, and while coming back, you know, some industries, sort of hospitality and things like that, have had some real challenges. But perhaps do you think it's and I address this to you three guys really, you know, as new entrepreneurs, is it like Sam has talked about, sort of apprenticeships and things like that? Is it perhaps now about just addressing your long-term skills gap by doing it differently than before, perhaps?
Certainly for me, I mean, the average salary for a senior person for us is very high. So you've got a very simple option, which in the old world, when I've got an established business, is quite easy. You've got an expensive person, you know you're going to get a certain amount of margin out of that individual. But when you're a startup, those decisions are much harder to make, because you've got to take a long-term view, and it's a huge element of your cost base. So I'm very much keen this time around to really focus on that long-term, you know, strategy, and getting, you know, look at the work actually, you know, break it down. Can you break it down to something that maybe 3 different roles within one, you know, and you've got to look at things differently, and just simply getting an old job profile and trying to fill it, I think it's a little bit lazy, and I think we can put a bit more effort behind that.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I mean, we've kind of done that in-house, in that we have a night shift, 2-hour night shift. It's not really a night shift, but it's 2 hours in the evenings, where we do some soldering, but also some more repetitive work. So the day shift looks after the more detailed soldering and cable assembly and what have you. So we've kind of split that out so that we found a pool of labour that is really flexible and able to, you know, it suits both the company and the employee. So that's been quite good to find that pool of resource. But I do think, though, if you look at Swindon generally, I mean, how many houses are being built? 10,000 in the Blunsdon and down the valley. It's an incredible amount of building going on. So that is going to also, I think, help to bring people to Swindon. And also, obviously, Honda's sadly closing soon, isn't it? I think is August. It's shutting down. Yeah. So there's some. I don't know if that fits with what we need, but it you know, that's going to be more resource there. But I think a lot of people are coming to Swindon, so I think that will have a natural impact on what skills are available, and it can only be positive for the town, really, I think. But we certainly we look at how we're pulling people on, and I think if you're creating a good place to work and good environment, that gets out there, and you start to become the sort of company of choice, if you like, to work for. So there's something in that as well. I think if you create a good environment and people get to know about that, and people want to work and in a nice environment and a place that cares about the employee, I think that's really important.
Yeah, I would totally agree. And I think, you know, the houses are certainly expanding here. But I think even before the pandemic as well, you know, there were certainly a lot of people based here that were commuting out to London and Bristol every day. Certainly I was myself at one point in my career. And I think equally, though, you know, as has been said, competing with those types of salaries is often difficult, especially as a smaller company. And in which case, you know, training up is actually quite a good way to go. The Kickstart scheme, obviously, we're looking at the moment as an option to help some people get into this career for the first time. And equally, as has been mentioned, you know, apprenticeships and things like that, the access we've got to local colleges and education centres, I think is great in Swindon. So the more we can use that, the better, I would say.
And of course, we've got the IoT, haven't we, opening in September here in town, as the 2 colleges have merged, a new college taking over. So, you know, that's always been a conversation piece, hasn't it? Without a university effectively present in town, there's been that sort of drainage of people. But actually, I think what the last 18 months has taught us, actually, we quite like being at home. We quite like being in our communities. And hopefully with the IoTs and the colleges and things like that in Swindon, that actually will encourage people to stay and actually come and work for you, Scott.
Yeah, exactly that. I think people are suddenly rethinking their commute, obviously, aren't they? And yeah, suddenly actually working around where you live is quite attractive. I think, you know, part of the problem as well is those in Swindon just aren't aware of the businesses here. And I think in some regards, even the businesses here aren't aware of other businesses for whatever reason. And certainly fixing that will obviously help to draw some people to the great companies that are based here.
Yeah, I spend all my entire working day trying to get all the businesses in town to tell everybody about they're here. And that is a challenge, Scott. You're quite right. You know, I spent my entire life shouting for it, but I just need more people to come with me on that journey often. So it's you're quite right. We need to tell more, don't we, and say what we're up to, because otherwise we will be that ubiquitous best kept secret.
And you've got the angles of, we don't have a university, but lots of universities are doing things in the region. So you've got Set Squared running all the workouts. You've got Royal Agricultural University, Oxford Brookes, obviously UE, Bath. They're all doing lots of bits in the region. And again, I think some of this isn't well enough known. There's some wonderful support out there and some great facilities. But it's, and they say, Tim and I, it's what we do to getting that voice and amplifying it. And the IoT and obviously the UTC, there's lots of different ways of growing our own. But for the TechSwindon Summit, we acknowledged that actually the demographic of who we're talking to, probably the more mature kind of people within technology who are bothered about buying those lovely houses, who want to come and live there and want that balance of the environment. We weren't trying to talk to people who are still looking at the bright lights of Bristol. I want that kind of cool tech scene. Because actually the Swindon tech scene is really different to the Bristol one. We've got a lot more established businesses, much more credible. Funky small digital startups in Bristol, when they evolve and nurture, might be coming eastwards, hopefully. That'll be the plan going forward. I thought it was quite interesting around remote working. We've all got very different environments in terms of the three businesses here. I mean, Duncan, yours is a quite more traditional environment. Did you have people asking for different ways of working over the last 15 months? Did you have to have those conversations?
Yeah, absolutely. We didn't have many, actually, people. So we had probably a couple of people who were office based normally, who were either had childcare issues or who were shielding. So we set up we set up laptops and sorted that out. But actually that led to we're on Canbury Park, and the speed of our in and out internet was actually rubbish. So we were really struggling. It was causing problems, corruption of data and things like that. So we in the end of last October, we put a fibre optic lease line in, which was a new phone system, and that suddenly we got massive. Was more than we need, sort of thing, in terms of speed, which is absolutely brilliant. So it's helped again with video conferencing and what have you. But then we also did some manufacturing from home, which we've never done before, and never really looked into that. And it was with some of our trusted long-term employees who again was sort of generally shielding, and so we worked that out, and the whole team came together in terms of how we kit it, how we get the product to the home, and then get it back and then inspect it. And so it worked. It helped bring everyone together, I think, because we just had to make it happen, and everyone did, and it was really good. But we're back more to normality. We don't really have only our accountant is not in the office. So we're back to normal. I mean, I'm self-isolating today, so that's why I'm hardly ever at home. I'm quite enjoying it, actually, working from home. This is rare for me. So, we at the moment we're very much manufacturing based, so we do generally have to be in, and it's quite a active environment. So in terms of lots happening, lots of changes, lots of customer requirements, pull in, push out, that sort of thing. So we do generally need to be based in our unit up in Swindon. So it hasn't. A lot of people I know have been home working, and I think a lot of people, like Scott was saying, have really enjoyed it. And it's just gives you a different way of life, really. And I think some of that won't change for a lot of people. Actually, it'll be and cost base could be lower for certain businesses if they don't need to have so many offices or as big an office. So it could be quite a change, actually.
A lot of people have closed their offices, as you say. It's going to be really interesting time. I ran my first workshop in real life last week, and it was lovely to actually see people's faces and actually have that energy. Sam, you've mentioned, obviously you started in lockdown, but you've mentioned that you love getting the team together for the kind of creativity session. So what are your plans going forward? So how have you used technology while you've all been working from home, I guess? And do you have an office currently that you're going to be working from?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. We had an office actually from day one. We felt it was important to have a small office, and actually we doubled in size the office space actually already. So it's useful, but we don't mandate who's in the office when. So it's we have, I would say, have a UK presence. Half of them are based in Swindon, so the office is relatively busy at some points, and other times, particularly Friday afternoons, it's fairly quiet. but it's up to people how, there's certain meetings that we say, like, if we're doing an architectural design, let's meet up and do it that way as well. It's nice to do that, but I think people appreciate having the control themselves to work out when they're going in. We similarly, we do some consulting work for customers, and that we've had a few now where we've gone on site, etc. But what we've tried to do is things like monthly team meetings where we a little bit less formal, Zoom meetings and have a quiz or something. But we are planning to once a quarter get everybody together in an individual and a group setting to do reviews as well as some social activity and team bonding, because I think that's important as well. I think it's an interesting, the whole remote working, because it works for some people, but actually if you're single and you're perhaps don't interact that many people, it's quite a burden actually. So having somewhere to people to go to and interact physically with people, I think is really important. So I think the rush of remote working, we've got to look at the other side as well, and what do people need, manage that as well.
And often, can't you, when you're in, whether it's you're out networking or in the office, it's that coffee making conversation that you have between your colleagues about whatever projects you're working on are often, dare I say, I hope my boss is not listening to this one, but actually are more important often than those meetings themselves. It's those little ad hoc sessions which you sort of waters the mind a little bit and gets the juices running. You think, well, yeah, thanks for that. I hadn't considered that, and I think those are the key moments. But we're remote working, I think, is with us for good. I mean, I've not, I've recently started sort of face-to-face meetings again, but actually, can we manage relationships through this medium? Yes, we can. But also, I guess we have to recognize, I think, that lots of people, I think, particularly in the last 18 months, I think you mentioned childcare, Duncan, and things like that. People have different issues, and we probably need to be more adaptable. But we probably, as people, we probably end up working probably different hours than we would normally associate. So I think we'll all adapt, and we won't know, I think, what remote working is going to look like or feel like probably for 18 months or 2 years. We will certainly be an evolution, I think, personally.
I think it's been fascinating how many corporates we've seen change their minds from everyone's going back in to everyone's not going back in. It's individual. I think, as you've all touched on, it's actually listening to the individual person and what they need and making around. It's not about presenteeism anymore. It's around delivery, and it's about treating people like grown-ups. But that is a huge cultural shift for a massive amount of organisations. I mean, Tim, I'm going to put this back to you, because obviously you're having sort of the wider conversations. How are you seeing organisations struggle with this, or maybe keep changing their minds and trying different models?
Well, I think, there was one business I was talking to in Swindon very recently, and they basically were almost split down the middle, where effectively all the, should we say the fee earners were quite happy to work from home, but all the support team wanted to be in the office, because actually what they did miss was the talking to the similar people, but actually, the bosses, the fee earners, whatever you want to call them, they were missing that learning ability to listening to people on the phone or at face, those types of meetings. Because actually it's that developmental side that if we're not careful, we will lose by being sat in our own little cocoon, if that makes sense. And I think, so I'm seeing that. I've seen one huge classic, I have to say, one business who've taken this whole reinvention of the circumstances. They are a factory operation where they've got 200 staff, I think it is, but the office team come in so many days, and they've got a policy of, I think, 4 in 10. They don't all mix, and like Duncan referred to, the production team operate on shift patterns in different parts of the building, and even they've got a creche in the building at the same time. So they are a big operation, but I was talking to the director, and they might absolutely hammered it down to all the way through for different staff with separate individual conditions. But I still think we won't know what it's going to look like in 2 years. But for me, as someone who's always had a job that's been roving and out and about, probably hasn't changed for me, if I was utterly honest, although I'm now a TV star, it seems.
So Scott, I was going to put it back to you, because obviously you're trying to sort of build a business. You've been doing it with freelancers, and I was kind of touching on Sam's point about how do you get creativity. You're working on projects with people who aren't in the same building. How have you been managing that personally?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. So we had set out before the pandemic started to always be a fully remote company, and certainly flexibility first. But as has been mentioned, that doesn't come without its drawbacks. And I think the one thing we have benefits of as we start to build a more permanent team is actually the people that are up for that now have at least trialed it for a year and know that that's for them. But yeah, creativity is obviously the one thing that does sometimes get missed. We obviously have to balance kind of the deep work of coding, which is great when you're at home, alongside that other stuff. And we kind of lean on a lot of great online tools, as I'm sure most companies do now. So, we've got the investment and all that, and great equipment for people at home as well. We lean on things like a virtual office, which we've started trying now. So a kind of background office that people can hop into just all day long. Don't have to do anything there. We can run some background music, or just have a bit chat, or just have another friendly face kind of working alongside you. That's been working really well. And yeah, when we need to, we will get together in kind of co-working spaces and client offices, or whatever we need to, really. And that's kind of the other side of things. But certainly something we'll be managing over the next few years as we start to grow, I guess.
I think we have seen people. We've known some people, Tim, who've given up the offices completely and are just booking a space every month. But I'm seeing people at places like the Engine Shed in Bristol. They're all getting very busy. The co-working spaces I've seen have really ramped up in terms of busyness over the last few weeks, as people are really excited to get out and see people again, as you say, Tim, to have those water cooler moments, start building those relationships, and networking events. We're seeing the first few actually in real life networking events coming through, because I think, Sam, you mentioned this at the beginning about the power of networks. That's been difficult, because doing this, as we said, we talked about this at the beginning, networking, meeting people online is not the same as in person. So how, when you're at Scott's kind of level of development, how you get out there and meet people has been quite hard, I think, over the lockdown period.
Yeah, definitely. And, we certainly relying on networks we built over 20 years, but, it's hard if you haven't had those. So I think it's important to, when we start getting back into a bit of normality, to start using those, because most of our early customers are people I've met at various events around the world, and typically in a social setting as opposed to a business one, and and those are important, and they help us get to this position. In fact, quite a lot of our investors have came through that route. So yeah, it's important, I think, to realise that actually you do need to do those in the future as well.
And it's quite hard to justify time. I mean, Duncan, I know Goldman Sachs 10,000 small business was incredibly powerful for you, but it's time, isn't it? That's the big challenge as the MD, is there's a million things you could be doing. How do you personally kind of manage your time to make sure you do get space to do things like that?
What, the networking sort of things?
Yeah.
Well, I'm here today. So it is really important, and I think you've got to assess to a certain extent how, because you do get quite a few things. There are quite a few around there out and about. So I did a digital leadership course a few months ago, and that was brilliant. And there's about 4, and I didn't have much. I didn't think I had time to do it, but I got kind of. I did it anyway, and it was the best thing, a very good thing to do. And so I think sometimes you just need to get yourself on it and make it happen and do it. Some of the Bank of England ones are good as well, just to get a sense of, just for an hour, where the government's going, what the Bank of England are doing. Sorry if I say more. So it is hard to justify sometimes, but I think when you get to trust an organisation that you think actually they give good value for time and it's worthwhile doing, that's the trick, is to find out what organisations give good value events actually, in terms of what you get out of them. And sometimes the courses are quite good because you get to meet people for a bit more time, and you can get to know them a bit better. So, like Sam said, that's when you start developing relationships and networks, and it hopefully continues on from just say one course. So we've got a follow up on ours just out of the blue, off this back of this digital leadership course, which should be quite an interesting conversation. So so it's just good to keep those things rolling.
I think it's really good to meet people, and also putting founders together from very different organizations is incredibly powerful, because you generally all have the same challenges and totally different solutions. It's always got time, money, and people, isn't it? But spending that time out of the business, reflecting back, things like the Set Squad innovation workout, entrepreneurship workout's great as well. But you're right, they're not all created equal. I think at the beginning you've got to go and try a few, haven't you, and kind of see where your tribe is. People are in a similar sort of situation.
I think as well. I'd also say that I was out for a day a week before last, and I had to go to Whitstable, and it was not fully work related, but I actually found having space of my own sat in the car for a long time, and then I stayed overnight, and I was met a friend, and it gave me some space to just let things sort of wash around without me sort of almost subconsciously, and I found that really powerful, rather than being in the day-to-day things coming at you all day long and making decisions. It actually enables you to settle them down a bit and think possibly about some of the longer term issues. I think that's really powerful, really important. Perhaps a tip there for Scott, just to
I was thinking about Scott,
out.
But it's having headspace time, isn't it? It's really hard, because I mean, Scott, as you say, you're kind of at the really aggressive growth period of getting people. You've got lots of projects, and we've talked about this before, haven't we? It's great working from home, but everything's merged into one. So
Yeah, and this is something. So I myself now mandate kind of an hour walk every day, just for that same thing. Is like get out and get a podcast on. Normally don't even listen to it, just with thoughts rolling around in my mind. But it is important to get away, and especially working from home. And again, we've talked about culture, but again, that's a big thing in terms of making sure that the people who are fully remote most of the time are getting that headspace, are going out of their way to kind of get out and still look after themselves and everything else. And certainly for creative work, has been mentioned, getting time away from the desk is super important. And again, another benefit of being in lovely Swindon, with having lots of great places to walk.
And also, I think with events and things like that, I mean, I run events all the time, and I think what I always say to our own Swindon Chamber members is always about, install a bit of discipline sometimes. If you're seeing there's one event on our list that actually appeals to you but don't really get it, just come along for an hour, because it's about, like Duncan talked about and you talked about, Scott, it's just about taking yourself out of that environment. And I would guarantee, dangerous word, that you'll come away actually with one, just today, I mean, listening to you three guys, how many things have I written down and understood already that I will take away? And I think it's, if you just take away one piece, Scott, Duncan and Sam, and just run it back into your businesses later today and next week, then actually that's a win-win for an hour of your time, and hopefully the people who are looking at us today talking. It's always about those little wins, that an understanding actually that there's other people with different business challenges, which actually you can help and contribute and give them some guidance, because actually we're all quite powerful people in our own right in terms of the knowledge and experiences and just those little nuances, which, yes, it's nice to have that water cooler chat, but actually we can still do it via the virtual network or on a phone as well. Let's not forget that one. Lucy's favorite.
Duncan, you were going to say something then.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, thinking about headspace and what have you, and one of the things that we did is, we've got 3 in our leadership team, is we got personality profiling done on what sort of, red, yellow, green and blue, I think it is. And I was just going to say to Scott, that's one thing we wanted to understand is how we fit together as a team, and that really helped us. I'm more generalist, and the other 2 in the team are more analytical and process, which is their operations, so that's perfect. But it's quite interesting as you grow to know how you fit in as a team. And I think also looking at yourself and what you're good at, what you're not so good at, and be scared to get, or afraid to get people to look at people to plug up those holes. That's what I tend to do. I tend to find, right, I know I'm not strong in this area, so I link to someone who's who can support me in that area. And it's sometimes you think, oh, I've got no weaknesses, but everyone has, and you've just got to work out what they are and just plug those gaps. But I think personality profile is quite a strong, we found a really powerful thing, and we're looking at possibly rolling that out to greater in our team as well, just to see how everyone links together, and then you understand the team better, and you can have a more direct conversation, quick, faster, and just understand a little bit better how that person ticks along. I think it's a really powerful thing.
It's a really healthy way to lead as well, because by admitting you don't know everything and you shouldn't be doing everything, you're letting the company breathe, you're letting it evolve. So many people, especially at the beginning, feel they have to do everything and be everything. And they create the blockers, they become the problem, the reason the business doesn't evolve. I mean, and so we're coming to the end. Emma, thank you very much for your shameless plugs for the Innovation Workout, Entrepreneur Workout. They're absolutely brilliant, fully funded. Scott's going to go on one. He is. But this could be also valuable for members of Sam and Duncan's team. This is fully funded and in our region, and I support as part of the speed mentoring at the end, so please do check those out if you haven't already. But I was going to finish off, Sam, with kind of following on from what Duncan and Scott were both saying. That culture is something that's really important to you, and as a leader of multiple businesses, you've obviously learned a lot about yourself on this journey. So you're now big in an organization that by the sound of it really fine-tunes you doing the piece that you love and that you're best at.
Yeah, absolutely. And I learned a lot about myself along the journey. One is that obviously I don't have much of a life outside of work, so that's so when I could have retired, I decided to go back into something. But also it was around, I enjoy getting involved in the technology. I'm involved. My background was in consulting, so I'm back to doing billable work, which I haven't done for probably 15 years. So I enjoy doing that. I'm doing a lot of the selling myself as well. So it's kind of, and getting to that size that we want to focus on allows me to do day-to-day stuff rather than dealing with HR issues, recruiting, all that sort of stuff. So I think it's important as an individual to understand what gets you motivated, excited, and make sure you build that in. Don't forget about yourself either, because the happier you are as a leader, then the happier the rest of your team will be, for sure.
It's what feeds your batteries, isn't it? There's so much. We laugh when you mentioned HR. So HR and finance, all those other bits, which you could spend your entire life trying to keep on top of. It's not the best use of your time at all. But actually, one of the key things that I'd like to take away from this is actually most people I know who lead a business are more than happy to help other people. That peer networking, which I know, Duncan, you've had at Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business, and the Swindon Founders was all set up that on getting a group of people who run businesses of all shapes and sizes together, originally over beer and pizza. Remember when we can do that? To be there for each other. Because actually the connections you can make and the challenges we all have, there's always somebody who knows somebody who's been through it, and leveraging that is so powerful. And that's one thing that we try and do, making those connections. Tim, I was going to kind of hand over to you for the final thought. As this conversation was all your idea, and it has been really brilliantly fascinating. We have recorded this, so Katie's asked in the chat about the recordings. We'll be sharing this on Facebook after we've topped and tailed it. But Tim, what are your final thoughts?
I mean, I can't believe I actually get paid to do this. I'm honest. I mean, we're very fortunate, aren't we? And it's about Swindon. It's about best kept secrets and things like that. We're very fortunate to have the three coming along today, because actually it is about the learning from each other. Because actually, in order to, if you don't employ anybody, that's okay too. You can still, work from home, but you still need, the Scotts and the Duncans and Sam just to sometimes just actually realize there is another world out there, because actually having them in your network is good for them and you. So I would say that, about networking and even our own, membership. I said, don't forget, there's one last ingredient you're not going to find printed in any brochure. Actually, sometimes it can be fun. We have to remember that we need that in our lives as well, not just how to make another buck next week. So it's about a bit of fun for your networking, but at the same time learning from each other, and realizing that in the location where we live and work, actually in Swindon, there's an awful lot of talent and resource and people. We're very fortunate to be in the town where we are.
Yeah, absolutely. And one interesting takeaway I was going to leave with is actually something that a couple of you've mentioned is what success looks for you as a business and what your business wants to be is about what makes you happy. And it could be you want to have a multi-million-pound business. It could be you want to work a 3-day week. Work out what success works for you, what it looks like for you, what makes you happy, what floats your boat, and what you want to be doing. We're in the perfect moment to build that kind of a business. I think the world is open for that, maybe more than it's ever been before. But thank you all so much to our panel. You have been amazing. Thank you for those who joined us in the audience as well, and we shall continue this conversation. Have a good rest of the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks all.